friends, I'm Laura and welcome to my garden. Today we need to do some major garden cleanup and change some things around. I went out of town for 4 days for my bachelorette trip, and when I came back things were looking pretty rough. We have officially been in the heat of summer for almost a month now. It is now the beginning of July and things are looking very tired, exhausted, and a lot of stuff needs to be tossed, deadheaded, and watered. So I figured I would show you around, show you an update of how things are going and what things look like right now. So right off the back door, we have the herb garden here, and it is so beautiful. I'm loving all of it. We've got oregano finally growing. It took so long for this to start growing from seed, and look at it trailing now. It's doing so well, and I'm very pleased with that. We've got some parsley here, which I have trimmed back so many times this year, and I'm not quite sure the correct way on how to trim it back. It seems that when I cut any stalks, basically that kills off that stalk and it can shoot out side stems from that stalk, but that stalk will never grow again. Whereas a lot of herbs, if I cut it back, that stalk will just come right back and keep growing. So I need to do some research on how to properly prune my parsley and figure that out for next year. Then we've got the basil looking absolutely incredible. Thyme, we've got fennel here. And this smells so nice and is so beautiful. It brings a different texture to the herb garden. It's so soft and kind of fuzzy. This is the lettuce. Oh my gosh. Really, just all this needs to get pulled. Basically, I planted my lettuce. I started from seed back in April, and I'm on the North Carolina, South Carolina border where it is just way too hot for this to be a summer crop. Every time I've tried the leaves, it's been really bitter. I'll go ahead and try another one right now, just in case. Oh yeah. Ugh. Yeah, that's really bad. That's super bitter. Okay, so yep, it just needs to all get pulled. None of this lettuce is going to be any good. It's all going to taste really disgusting and bitter. So I'm going to pull all of this out and probably leave this space empty. That way, in another couple of months, I can go ahead and plant lettuce in here, the same exact kind, and I'll try it as a fall crop. I probably won't plant until September since August is still really hot here. But yeah, I think that will be good to try that out because it's my first time ever trying to grow lettuce, and of course I tried to grow it in the summer, which was silly, but I didn't know any better, and now I do. So, swinging around over here, I severely pruned this back a couple of weeks ago, and it's doing really well. I can kind of pull some of this dead stuff out, but you can see some stuff is regrowing here, and I think this is all the whatever this is. I was pretty sure this was a Supertunia, but it might actually be Calabrachia. I get them all mixed up since it is my first year growing. I'm usually pretty good when I first plant something, and then throughout the season they all start to blend together. And I've got one of these over here doing really well, this orange one, and then the whole rest of the plant is just kind of dead. So I think I could go ahead and take a lot of that out. Definitely clean that up. Maybe plant this into something smaller. And then over here we've got a foam flower which has not grown back. I mean, the base is doing incredible, but I haven't had any new growth from these stalks that I cut back that were dead. So we'll see. Maybe I'll cut them back further and just see if that does anything. And then over here I just need to go ahead and toss this ivy plant, which is almost dead. We've got a couple of green things on it, but mostly dried up, and I don't want it in the house anyway. I need to completely deadhead my echinacea white coneflower here. We've got a couple of new buds, and I want to make sure that the plant can send all of its energy to that. And just look at this. This is what the sun and heat in North Carolina does, even to a summer sun heat loving flower. This coneflower, it just got scorched, like literally got sunburned. So yeah, I need to go ahead and deadhead this so that can come back. I need to water everything. My mums are looking a little sad over here, so I need to do some deadheading on some of these, which have also been sun scorched. But overall, the plant is doing pretty well. Over here, we got a similar situation, except for all the middle plant, whatever that was called, I think it's called celosia. That is all dead, so I need to pull that up and find something else to plant in the middle of this. And then we've got all of this beautiful orange flower, which I'm not gonna lie, looked a lot better back in spring. I think the heat of the summer, it just struggles. The blooms aren't nearly as big, and they look pretty sad and tired. So yeah, they're doing okay though. And then over here, oh my gosh, I could not believe the way my tomato plant shot up when I was gone. I was only gone for like 4 or 5 days, and this is absolutely incredible. Like, when I left, it was up to here, and it got so much thicker and grew so much more upright. And then of course we've got the carrots in the bottom, which also look like they're growing crazy. Look at how tall that is. So that's awesome. And this is actually a self-watering plant. It has a little water reservoir in the bottom, and I think that's why this plant is thriving compared to everything else, which is really struggling. Yeah, and then we've just got few other things here that desperately need watering. And then I could do a quick stroll of the garden. Here we've got the persimmon tree. No fruit that I can see. She does have some bug damage here in a few spots. But overall, she looks really healthy, aside from the fact that she doesn't have any fruit. So I'm not sure what's up with that. You're not supposed to need more than one in order to pollinate, so I don't know. I'm gonna have to look into why this is not creating fruit. But you can see up there, some of her leaves have been eaten, but overall, most of them are looking really healthy. And then the last part of the garden to show you is the raised garden beds over here. I think we've got a few things that need to be pulled. Everything needs a really good water. And you can see lots of little things growing up here. I did transplant more seeds a few weeks ago, and the ones in this bed are looking really good. And then all of these, I'm pretty sure these are dahlias, we'll find out. But this one, this one, this one, those two, I had moved them all. So essentially they were in this part of the garden bed, this part of the garden bed, this part of the garden bed, out towards the front. And they are such huge stalks, they need a ton of support. So I've gone ahead and transplanted them all so they can lean against the fence between our yard and the neighbor's yard. And hopefully that will help fix that issue that we've been having, and they will no longer bend and break and fall. And then we've got the neighbor's fig tree here, which is looking so wonderful. The fruit is still extremely firm, but I absolutely love figs, so I hope to get some figs off of this year. They look so good. This plant is just thriving. Look at it, it's just growing right over the fence here, so when it's ripe I can come up and just pick a fig, so that's pretty exciting. My dwarf hydrangea here, absolutely loving this. This flower right here, which is a shade flower, it's really rebounded since I put it over here in the shade. It used to be in a container on the porch, and it's doing a lot better. You could see some new growth is forming. I want to say this is called a bleeding heart plant, but look at all this. Look at finally new petals. It's been like 6 months since I've seen any petals on this guy. And so this is very exciting to me. I need to go ahead and deadhead all of these old spots where there used to be blooms, where they had all died up. Absolutely love this pink cat's tail. I do not remember what this is called. I don't see a tag in here either, but I have the tag somewhere in the house. I'll have to look it up. This is an annual, which I find to be tremendously heartbreaking because it is the cutest ever. and just brings such a lovely texture to the garden with that fuzz. And I have noticed that this plant seems to be so much more durable. Like, bugs have not bothered it at all, whereas bugs have gotten to basically every other plant in the garden. So you can see the other one doing so well back there. Really happy with that. And then this bed just keeps getting dug up. And I'll tell you what, I think it's our cat who thinks it is his personal litter box. And I'm not quite sure what to do about that, aside from just coming in here and totally covering up the beds. I'm not sure if there's anything I can do. So we've got this beautiful hydrangea here, which is one of my favorites. And unfortunately, she needs a really good water. She also might need to move down a garden bed or two where she's a little bit more shaded next year, because you can see her colors are kind of struggling here. So she is supposed to be varying colors of pink, and she grows in as like this light green color, turns to white as she forms her petals, and then varying shades of pink, which should get darker and darker throughout the season. But you can see a lot of them have been sun scorched already and are brown. So I'm not quite sure if that's a lack of water or if that is just from the intense sun. So I need to get like an umbrella over her or something. And then we've got some marigold over here. I'll tell you what, holy tamale, that is a huge bee. Can you see that? Look at that. Wowza. That is a really big bee all up in there. It's just a carpenter bee though. Holy tamale, he's like living in that plant. Wow. That is like the biggest carpenter bee I think I've seen in our yard so far. His legs are huge, fat and furry. So this marigold is supposed to be a really beneficial plant for the garden, especially when planted with other things. With tomatoes particularly, it's supposed to be a great companion plant. But to be honest, I don't know, I found a lot of bugs in these guys. So while they look really good, there are a lot of bugs in their petals. So I'm not quite sure how that's supposed to be helpful for the tomato plant, keeping bugs away. But obviously I don't have it with my tomato plant out here. He's just in the garden, looking really beautiful with that dark orange. It is a great pop of color, so that's pretty awesome. And all of my mums have just really thrived since transplanting them. I have a feeling that next year most of these beds will be mostly these mums, which should bloom pink in autumn, and I'm so excited for that.
All right, wrapping up this quick garden tour, let's move on to actually getting the garden tasks done. I am throwing out some of the things that I need to throw out and doing a bunch of deadheading, just like I said I needed to. And I find deadheading to be a really sad and tragic task because the plant looks like it's just greenery when you're done with it, and you have to wait for all of those beautiful flowers to bloom back. But it is worth it when your flowers are looking really run down in the middle of summer, or if they have a lot of pest damage. Sometimes just cutting that plant back and cutting those blooms off gives the plant enough like resources. It doesn't have to direct its energy towards that spent bloom anymore, or that bloom that isn't working out. It can just send all of its energy into improving the health of the plant and sending out new flowers. So hopefully it's worth all the work of deadheading, but it is really sad to take all of those flowers off, even though they are way past their prime and don't look good anymore. They look better than nothing. So I do that, pulling out all the lettuce too, and some other things that were out in the garden bed, some weeds and some of the greenery that had died and turned brown on some of the plants. I go ahead and I just clean everything up a little bit. And I don't know that you can really tell in the video the impact that has. I don't think you really see the impact of deadheading until a month later when the whole plant is flush with new blooms and has lots of beautiful new flowers on it. So it's definitely one of those things that immediately you don't see great progress from. It takes a while for better to grow back in than what you took away. So that is the task that I'm doing, but I've watched enough gardeners on YouTube to know that deadheading is the way to go for most plants, and that it really is worth the momentary sadness of removing that flower from the plant. But definitely look up which plants you're thinking about deadheading before you do it. Some of them won't grow back, but most of them will flush out with new blooms. The next thing that I did was plant something in the middle of this container where the middle plant had died, and I ended up putting a bell pepper there, which I think is going to be great. And then the very last thing that I do is I get started planting some squash. I have a few different specialty fantasy pumpkin varieties here that I'm planting, and I'm really excited for that. I'm excited for fall. And that'll wrap up my tasks for today's gardening video. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this mid-July garden tour and garden refresh tasks. Make sure to subscribe to my channel, give this video a like or comment down below if you want to see more, or if you have any comments or questions or anything like that. Definitely just want to build a community of like-minded people who are interested in similar things. So I welcome those conversations. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.